All right, Fi. So here's a swing I wanted to show you. So this is the swing that we sort of say, hey, this is a little in between what you're doing now or what you were doing prior and where you'd kind of like to be. Oh, thinking of this one here. Yes. So the big thing is we're seeing the hips just beginning to outrace the torso. So we would like to see the hips peak first, torso peak second, hands peak third. We've talked about the difference between a practice swing and impact, and you sort of feel like they're different swings, and I think part of it is right around this. So you're still leaving more speed through, or more efficiency of releasing that club right through to impact. It almost looks like maybe you're holding it off, or perhaps we're flipping a little bit, and we're just not quite getting that compression that you could get. When we look at how these lines, how you turn into the backswing, it looks actually really quite smooth, but there's still a little bit of room for improvement. What I want to show you is when we back up into the pelvis position, at the top of the backswing, your hips could still turn further. Now, how do we do that? One of the ways we need to do that is by adjusting the amount of side bend. We've talked about if the lead hip, this number here, gets too low, this number goes up. So in this case, we've got -16. Now we saw as high as -20 and almost 22 degrees, but this is again in the right direction. We can see we've got a lot of other numbers that sort of tell us that you're in the right ballpark. And again, we see a lot of red, but this is really punitive. At -70 at the top, this meant that you were trying a far more restricted backswing. A lot of the swings we had were you turning closer to 100 degrees. So this is, we'll call it like an in-between swing. It might not have been perfect, but this is directionally in the right direction. And this one is one of the best swings that we sort of captured. What we also see too is we talked a little bit about some of the cues you and Drew had talked about in how you take the club back, or perhaps not how you take the club back, perhaps, but how you turn the whole body away from the target in the backswing. And with those sorts of cues, we can see things improve. We can see that the lines haven't crisscrossed over one another. And when we see them stretch or fan out the way that they do, is a really good sign of more efficiency. That means like the relative speeds are really even, it's in sync, and you're using your obliques and your glutes more effectively. We can see you have the right transition going through the downswing, and you also have the right peak speed as well. So yes, we lost a little bit of rotational speed, but this is very, very little in the grand scheme of things. The other thing that happens, with a little bit of the feedback, we also talked about maybe we want to start just double checking alignment at address, whether the shoulders or hips are getting a bit too open. Otherwise, I like a lot of it. The upper body bend being out a degree is not something that we're concerned about at all. Again, you're still able to manufacture a better swing despite the pelvic side bend getting too low, which is the lead hip too low at the top, but we're seeing far more rotation. So you've at least coupled these components a lot better. Lastly, your upper body turn, you've taken a few degrees off as well, or like it's still close to what you're doing, but the main thing is you're at least sort of starting to stabilize the lower body a bit more. Otherwise, things look really good. The upper body side bend, we had talked about what it might feel like to feel more kind of connected or just feeling more tension. And we talked about in the previous video about the bar of the shoulders, so the shoulders pointing down to the ground. We're finding it's right around the right direction. In that back room there too, I think all the numbers have a little bit like a 5-degree sort of wiggle room between sort of being kind of on the mark or just off the mark. So overall, we're seeing a lot of numbers that are almost all completely within the green. Like your direction so far.